Great to have you around today.
All right, thank you for
That's
having
been
me.
your day.
That's been a good day. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think everyone else was also very excited to have you around because I kind of posted about the next set of guests coming into the podcast, and everyone was very excited. So I know you on Twitter, but I'm not sure a couple of those who are watching might know you. So can you tell us about yourself with Porter?
Yep. My name's Porter. I've been working in blockchain for a few years now. I currently work at Matter Labs on ZKSync. ZKSync is an Ethereum L2 ecosystem, and I really like math, and that's how I got into ZK and cryptography. And I really like kind of talking with people about everything. So it's great to be here.
Yeah, and even I can attest to that because when I saw you on, I think the ZK list on Twitter, I think one of the things that drew me to your tweets was ZK things, math. I think back then I was trying to learn Noah, so it was very great to kind of hear people in ZK talking about it, and it was very, very exciting. But like, if you were to trace it back though, when do you think you got to discover that, okay, I think I actually like maths?
I've liked maths for a long, long time, like since I was in school, a little kid. The question was always like, what am I going to do with it? And how am I going to get a job? And it actually comes from I was watching those World War II movies with Alan Turing breaking the Enigma machine. I was like, wow, it's so cool. It was like codes and code breaking. And if I could like find a job that did that, I would do that. And eventually, like kind of at the same time I was graduating college, cryptography, cryptocurrencies kind of became a really big thing. And so, yeah, I knew I wanted to work in this field.
Unlike you, I just got to know about ZK. It's really ZK development not quite long, say like 3 years ago or something. But like you had always had an edge around it. And do you think the reason you probably pivoted full time to ZK was because you kind of had an edge in it, maybe because of your background or stuff like that?
I definitely, having like a strong math background has helped a lot in CK. But I
Definitely.
will say one of my hot takes is that like people call ZK moon math, and I think like probably 80-90% of it is not too complicated. Like it's a lot of polynomials and like that's and finite fields, and that's kind of it. You can understand almost everything just off those two things. You don't need that much craziness. So I think it's like much
You get it.
more learnable than people think. There just haven't been good like classes or resources to learn yet.
Oh, interesting, interesting. And I was also thinking, how how easy do you think it is for someone outside? I mean, probably for example, now I studied law. I mean, someone from a very external field or background to learn ZK. How easy do you think it is?
It depends on their goals. Like if they would just want to build a ZK application, like you can use Noir, you can use a ZK VM, and like you don't have to be worrying about the math details of what's happening behind the scenes. Like you're gonna have to write your code base, and then you're probably just gonna run like, Noir proof, Noir verify, or cargo proof, cargo verify. Like it's been very simplified for people who just want to like build things. If you want to learn the theory from scratch, I think even that's gotten a little bit better. Like, there's the big class from all the Stanford people, Dan Binet and Don Song. I think it's the ZK MOOC, MOOC. And so, like, I would say probably like in 1 month, I think you could go from zero to like pretty educated about ZK. And like, if you had something that you really wanted to build, I think like 1 month from now, you would have enough background to like be able to start making progress.
Really talented person. I think it was talented person. I think I could probably dust off my ZK books now and get what serious with it. Yeah, anyway, like one of the things I mostly have the guests on the podcast is their background. particularly with how they started development. Back then, I started with Plus, Dreamweaver kind of thing, writing HTML, CSS, and all that. But I think so. What was it for you? What was the language you started with, and how did it start?
Yeah, I'll say I prepared this. I learned Python first, and it's because I was very into code breaking. So I can show you
Ooh,
like some of the puzzles that I like solving in my free time. You know, you have to like
wow.
encode it letters, and then I fill in like what it actually says. And so I wrote
This is really very interesting.
scripts to like decode secret messages. That was my first intro into coding, and it was really fun.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So, what do you think are the interesting things about you that most people don't know? I mean, something general, something on the surface, too.
I do. I don't spend too much money in my free time, but books are one of them. Like I really like collecting
I can see
books.
that's behind you.
I guess yeah. I guess people kind of already know that one. Let me pick something else then. I'll say I played soccer a lot growing up. Not too many people know. Or football, yeah. And one of my teammates from when I was little has made the U.S. national soccer team. And so when I was like 10 years old, I played with Shaquille Moore. And now I like turn on the TV and I see Shaq
Wow.
Moore. Yeah, on TV. I'm like, wow, let's go Shaq. That's awesome. So
Great.
yeah, but I watched how hard he was practicing back then, and I was like, okay, right now we're like about the same skill level, but he's practicing like hours and hours every day, and I'm probably not doing that. So respect to him. But I did get to kind of see, I was like, okay, this is what it takes. Like if you want to be like a professional at something, you need to be like practicing really, really hard. So I'm a big fan still.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And one very interesting things I got to know, especially around among engineers and security researchers, is that I think a good number of us have flair for being an athlete. There was who did I interviewed last? I think he was also into combats, and so but that brings me to another thing. How do you think being an athlete at one point has helped you now that you are more of an engineer?
I think the teamwork that I learned from being an athlete has like really helped in my career. Like, I think everyone should play a team sport
Collaboration.
when they're little because you're forced to like talk with your teammates and like play to each other's strengths. So I really like passing. I was really good at like passing to other people and then they would score. So I get like a bunch of assists. That was what would make me really happy. And so I think kind of the same thing happens in like the workforce also, where different people have different skills, and you should try and like let each person do the parts that they're really good at, and as a team together, you can succeed.
That's very important. And I think even at my last academy, that was one of the feedback I got, that I should get to start building with people, not always be a solo guy all the time. And I think that's something that even I have to work on. And it's so interesting to also hear that from you from a different standpoint. Okay, so I want us to kind of shift the gear a bit and talk about what you are more enthusiastic about. Ethereum L2s. And I know you have a lot to say about Ethereum L2s and everything going on in the ecosystem, and it's just so interesting. But before then, could you tell us about take a minute to shield the ZKSync and just simply tell us what it's all about and what you are doing there?
Yes. So ZKSync, most people maybe already knew it as just ZKSync Era was the first L2 on Ethereum. It was one of the first ZK rollups ever on Ethereum. And now we've realized like if we already built all the tech for ZK-Sync Era, we can reuse that tech for other chains. And so now there's a big group of Abstract, Gravity, SoFon, a bunch of different ZK-Sync chains. And it's really exciting. And pretty soon we'll be adding interoperability to tie them all together. But my real pitch for like why would you want a zero knowledge like ZK L2 is it comes down to trust. So if I'm imagining that there's going to be a world where pretty much everyone who wants to use blockchain, I think that's a very, very large portion of the world, will want to run their own infrastructure. So the same reason that like a lot of people run their own websites and we don't just all share the same website for every single company, people will choose to have their own dedicated servers, their own dedicated L2 for their company, for their bank, for their project. And then they'll just kind of talk to the other L2s when they need to, but mostly they can just focus on their own personal chain. And when you live in this world where everyone's running their own chains, then you really want ZK proofs because you don't have time to check everyone else's work directly. Like, but you'll still want to, yeah. And so the ZK proofs are really kind of what I think is going to like tie the whole blockchain world together, because that's the only way you can possibly keep up with like the entire rest of the world, make sure everyone else is like behaving properly while still like having control yourself of your chain.
Well, interesting, interesting. I think that was the point I was trying to read the ZKSync doc to ship stuff with data and just play around. And I think it was really, really exciting. And I must applaud what you are building. Must applaud how it's helping. And one thing I noticed recently also is that institutions are coming in beyond retail and everything. And they've been choosing to build on also like ZKSync. And it's just so interesting. Maybe I got to know that you are working on Airbender. So can you please tell us about what Airbender is all about?
Yeah, Airbender is my new project that I'll be working on every day. It is ZKSync's newest ZK proof system. It's called Airbender. So it is a ZK VM. You can take any code you want, compile it to RISC-V, and then like snap your fingers and Airbender will prove it. It is, at the moment, world's fastest ZK VM. We're very impressed with the performance. The costs have dropped like 10 times from what they were with our previous proof system. And we're super excited to use Airbender, not just for ZK-Sync chains themselves, but also for applications. Like if you have some sort of app that wants to like ZK proof stuff on chain, you could use Airbender. And then also for Ethereum itself, we've been talking a lot with the Ethereum Foundation and ETH proofs because we might want to use Airbender to prove the Ethereum L1, which would be awesome.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think that's one of the things everyone wants to know, and even I want to ask. How feasible do you think it is for ZKVM to be natively integrated to Ethereum? And if it is eventually done, what to be the practical results for the end user and even the developers?
Yep. So there are like pretty strong discussions about this like happening right now. I just recently got back from Berlin Blockchain Week where I talked with the Ethereum Foundation. To like run the Ethereum blockchain, you still need like the clients happening, execution clients happening in the first place. And then you need to prove that it's like happening correctly. So you need kind of the two pieces, the current L1 clients and the ZK like VMs, and they need to work together. And uh, but a lot of our teams, it's like our first time talking to each other. It's like the Geth team, the Rec team, like all the L1 clients, and then also like Airbenders, the Sync SP1, Risk Zero, all the like CKVMs, and we're still figuring out what's the best way to like match everyone together, or how we're going to like, should you be able to use any execution client with any ZKVM, or should we say like, okay, Airbender is always going to work with Geth, so Sync SP1 is always going to work with Ref, and kind of pair them up that way. So it's not really decided yet. We want to maintain still good like you have like multiple clients so that if there's a bug, then everything's still okay. Forget the term for that. But yeah, we want to keep everything safe and secure as much as possible.
Yeah, yeah. That's so interesting. And also zooming out, I think I've always appreciated what other ZK infra, and I don't know if I can call them chains here. It's like O1 Labs, other people in the ecosystem. I think I kind of appreciate what they're doing, especially with making it something that is contributing and kind of setting this open source. I don't know why I'm getting nervous. And making this kind of open source things around ZK for everyone. So what do you think about ZK in terms of open source? First of all, I would like to know how people, definitely developers, can contribute to ZK open source, like what's the projects to kind of start with and how it works. I've already contributed to virtually anything in the ZK space in terms of open source, but how does it work over there?
Yeah. I think a lot of the top projects that I love the most are all open source, so that's good. I would say like if you want to contribute to the ZK repos themselves, I think like Noir could be a great place to start. I think there's a lot of things in the Noir repo that like could be improved or rewritten, or like there's lots of areas to add to. The other one that I like to call out is, out of all the ZK VMs I've read, A16C's Jolt ZK VM is like really nice, really simple code base. And so if you want to like understand a whole ZK VM, I think I read every line of code in about 2 hours, which every other ZK VM, it's taken me like 8 hours
Long.
to read all of their
Wow.
code. So if you just want like a simple one, and Jolt stands for just one lookup table, and it's because they reuse the same stuff over and over. Like it's a lot of sum check proofs and Spartan and stuff. And so like, yeah, it's just a very nice, simple code base. And so if it's like intimidating to get into the huge repos, you can start there.
Yeah, that's a great to understand. And I also wanna ask, you know, many security researchers these days are trying to get into new niches, say Solana development, more. How lucrative is the ZK security research now, and what's the availability of, let's say, public reports or resources around?
Yeah, I think ZK security is still like extremely lucrative. Like there's only a couple companies that are like working on this right now, and they're all like in extreme high demand. They charge very high rates, and they're booked for a long time. And it's because like you have to ask someone who knows ZK, and there aren't that many of those people right now. So this is a really big opportunity, I think, for more people to get into the ZK security space. There, I think it's going to be so much ZK, like everything's going to be proven all over the world. And there's tons of various, like, one problem. So, for example, we're thinking about is with ZKSync Providiums, we're allowing people to have their own private chains, private interoperability. But what that means is like, if I really can't see anything else on your chain and I just have a ZK proof that you're like behaving correctly and not stealing money or something, then like all of my security also now depends on your ZK proof being correct. And so I want to be like very, very confident there are no bugs in the ZK. So anything that can help me with security is like extremely valuable. And you think institutions are going to bring like $1 trillion on chain probably? They're going to pay, probably several $billions for security. And so there's tons of money to be made. Yeah, if you get into ZK security now.
Ah, interesting, interesting. Because I have quite a good number of researchers who follow the podcast. So for all of you watching now, I think this is a very good. If you're thinking of the next niche, or if you really want to niche that, you can consider this UK and it's really interesting. So moving on, we've still been talking about Ethereum L2s. Well, I would like to ask you, like as a person, what are the gaps you currently notice among L2s in terms of technicality, in terms of approach of audience and developer experience?
Yeah, I think the developer experience has gotten much better. ZK-Sync, like we're switching from Era VM to EVM. So like we had some small differences between us and the Ethereum virtual machine. We're getting rid of those because basically the Ethereum virtual machine ecosystem is like the best for developers. There's a lot of tooling and stuff. Uh, what's missing from L2s? I think the most obvious and funny one is the interoperability. So like Optimism announced Superchain like 2, 3 years ago, and there's no connection between any of the chains yet. Like there's nothing super about it. It's just one chain and then another chain and then another chain, and they don't talk to each other at all.
It's really not actually interoperable yet.
Yeah. And so what all the teams are working on it. It's coming soon, TM. But I think once L2s start really adding proper interoperability solutions, that will be like the really, really big like next breakthrough, I think, for L2s to like completely take off.
Yeah, because I've also been following the super chain idea. I was even thinking it's something that's already materialized, not to get to know that it's quite in theory yet and not yet implemented. And come to think of it, if all the L2s can actually come together, I think it will be more formidable for L2s as subcomponents on Ethereum and largely on Ethereum as the L1. I think it's going to be more fun. It's a bit more fun. So among all the L2s, how do you think ZKSync is differentiating itself from everyone else?
Yeah. Obviously, I think ZK6 is the best. Uh,
Of course.
I think in terms of differentiating, we have been, I would say, like really good at sort of shipping things and like maybe intentionally, maybe unintentionally, maybe we got a little lucky, but we've been building towards sort of the future for a while in terms of Ethereum itself is basically looking to switch to like all ZK things. And this is kind of the vision that ZK-Sync has had for a long time. Same with the interoperability between the different chains. We have all the ZK proofs between different chains, makes interoperability much, much nicer. And I think we are like leading the way there. So like, and then if you want like Providiums or private custom chains, again, I think ZK6 is the only team that has like working sort of semi-private chains. And so I think we've just like done really well on building the right technology. And it's kind of all the other teams, including Ethereum L1, are starting to see, hey, like it was all kind of just theory and we're just arguing on Twitter before. But now that we've like had time to kind of sit down and think about it, this actually is like the best architecture going forward. What I think ZK could do better on is probably marketing and being better at taking care of our community and like having more people support us. We've done a lot of just like almost solo builder attitude of like, we're just gonna put our heads down and build the coolest stuff in the world.
I think
And like
you constantly worship actually. Because I often see Alex tweet about every update and everything.
yeah. And so I think it would be a little better though if we kind of involved more people in the community and didn't try to be quite such like solo builders.
Okay. And I think it's naturally a hacker thing to just try to do things and focus quite on the technical aspect of things first. For me as a person, I think I prefer when I'm building stuff, I think I prefer to solve that technical aspect first before I even think of marketing, before I think of other community things. Even though I got to know that marketers say that's not the best thing to do, but I just want to be very sure that it's what I'm shipping is the right thing yet before and I think that's quite the same thing you are doing, which I think is very understandable. And that leads me to something else I'd like to ask for other founding engineers or engineers working at other companies. How do you think they can balance being technical, like the technical aspect of products building with the people facing side of it? How do you think they can kind of coordinate it without messing up each part?
Mm, I think it just takes like the right people, and people are awesome. I'm pretty like I just think like all people all over the world are super cool, and you can always find like good people to work with and who can like help out. I'm not like an expert on all the people side. I also more of just like a math nerd technical guy. But I've like learned a lot from my like marketer friends and business development friends about like how their side of the story works. And so it's been good.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So lately, as we've seen, many institutions been coming to the industry, and some will create their chains. I think BlackRock created their chain. Others also created their chain. How do you think? Do you think this is the best move to do, or is simply better to build on an existing L1 or L2? What's your opinion about that?
Yeah. I think these super huge companies like Robinhood, Deutsche Bank, like they are they want like multiple properties. They don't care too much about exactly the underlying infrastructure. Like they're not even too worried if it's blockchain. The blockchain happens to be the best solution. The things they really want are it needs to be cheap and it needs to be fast and they need to have control of it. And until now, I would say like only two of the three were like possible at a time. So if you build on like an alternate fast L1, you could have fast and cheap, but you have like no control of the stack. If the chain crashes, you can't do anything to like get it back online. You just have to wait for everybody else. Like you're kind of stuck with other people's infrastructure. Also, if you have privacy, like it's it's possible, but it's a little trickier because again, you're kind of depending on everyone else running the chain too. But now with L2s, you can kind of have everything you want. So you can still be fast and cheap, but you also, oh, I forgot, other property they need is interoperable. So all L1s are good at this is like you want kind of your own infrastructure, but you still want to be like connected to everyone else. So like historically, IBM Hyperledger gave people their own blockchains. But if you're just a company, you just have your own blockchain and it doesn't do anything and it's not connected, you can't bridge to anywhere, like you can't do anything else. It's pretty boring and kind of stale and like it's actually not that great. And so L2s are kind of the perfect combination where you're still interoperable, like soon. But you can already go to Ethereum and back, but you can interop with all the other chains. You have control of your own infrastructure, and it's fast and cheap. And so this is why like all the institutions right now are just picking L2s, L2s. Like some of them are on Arbitrum, some of them are on like Optimism Superchain, some are coming to ZKSync, but like every announcement I see is just institutions picking L2s, and this is probably why.
Yeah. It's kind of exciting to get to see that like the traditional financial system is kind of coming on chain. It's I think back in the days, this is something you probably wouldn't even expect with the skepticism around Web3 and the whole other things. But now we are kind of having them around and it's interesting. So let's kind of shift the gear a bit and talk about when you were talking, you spoke about privacy and generally from an end user's point of view, most people don't really care or they don't know why they should care yet about privacy while they are maybe browsing or taking transactions, doing transactions, all that. So why do you think people should care about privacy?
Well, it has been a little funny. I think the institutions have cared more about privacy than regular people, or at least a lot of the crypto people. Like the degens are happy to just go gamble. Like they're just trying to make money, and everything else is not as much of a worry. But the institutions, they want to keep their data private. Sometimes that's for like business reasons. Sometimes that's for legal reasons. And then they also like are much more paranoid about security than the average user. The institutions, like if they're bringing, $1 billion or more on chain, they need to make sure that's safe, like very, very much. Versus I think average people's risk tolerance is usually a little higher. Where they're just like, oh, all right, there's a number, it shows up in my application on my phone, must be good. And so, yeah, I think but why should like regular people care about privacy? Is it's like more just people don't need to know your data for like most of history. People didn't like before the internet existed. Like
Yeah.
only your friends, your close family kind of knew like about you too much. And I think there's a lot of times where that's like a beneficial thing and like the whole world doesn't need to know your private business. And um, now with like AI models training on stuff, like there's lots of very scary features maybe about that. But my big thing is just like only your friends and family need to know about you. Everything else should probably be private.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the reason I had to raise that was because I noticed a good number of people don't care about privacy. Well, want to, they have to, and they probably have to learn a hard lesson and all. But I think a couple of all these things are very preventable. For example, I was seeing something on Twitter. It's been months now. I don't know whatever trend was trending there, and people were showing their bank details, the cards. They were showing some numbers there. I don't know. I was like, why are you doing this? You're simply giving hackers a good time, but it's interesting. Now, let me try to wrap up now. So, for anyone hoping to get started with ZK security, ZK developments, or a team looking to build on ZKSync, what's your message for them right now? What do you want them to do?
The most important thing is just to like start getting really excited about the future of ZK. So I think I was like extremely early to ZK and very lucky, but like even now, what we have is there's like ZK-Sync, Scroll, Polygon, like and a couple others, but there's maybe like say 20 ZK projects, 50 ZK projects total at the most. And I think we will get to a point in the world where almost every computation in the entire world will be ZK proven. I think like all of the processors and your laptops and your phones and your chips will all ZK proof stuff. I think when you play video games, they will just ZK prove that you're playing correctly instead of having all the like anti-cheat software. I think like everything is going to become a ZK proof. And so we need so many more people in this field. Like, like I said, there's like 50 companies, maybe a couple hundred people now who like know how to use Noir or anything else. And there's like $1 trillion institutions coming who want ZK, and you might be the person to help get them there. So like, please come learn ZK. Ask questions to me anytime. I'm always happy to help teach things. And yeah, it's a really cool field.
Yeah, and for the record, Porter reached out to me when I was having a question around ZK some years back. So I think he is very approachable. If you have anything you want to know about ZK, I think you should reach out to him. I'll add a link to his profile to this video so you can always reach out to him and all that. And when you mentioned the Polygon ag layer thing, I think it kind of reminded me that almost every chain now is planning how they will integrate ZK to their infrastructure. And at this point, I don't think it's even a hype anymore. So do you think there is a future where, say, Solana or Sui or other chains will also kind of have ZK into their protocol?
They could, but like as you've maybe seen, like Ethereum is making some changes to the L1 itself to be easier for ZK to be added. In fact, like over time, a lot of the architecture decisions have been planning for this ZK future. And so it would be like a pretty huge rewrite for some of the other chains to ZK proof themselves, but it is possible. So for example, you mentioned Solana. There is a team, remember their name. They're like a Solana L2 that's like they had like a clicking on cows meme. I forget. Eclipse
Like
Labs.
SVM. Okay, secondly.
Yeah, they are Solana L2 that has used RISC-0 for ZK proofs. And so they've built like an entire L2 ZK. It works. So it is possible. I think, yeah, Sui and Solana, like they're doing great on their own. I think at some point it might make sense for them to be like more closely connected to all the other chains, especially if more of the institutions are all building Ethereum L2s. They probably will want to be like kind of closer to that and next to that and potentially have their own L2 someday. So that'd be really cool if that happens.
Like it's a very high possibility actually.
I think so.
Yeah, yeah. So now let's get to the fun part. What's that hot take you have about Web3? What's that hot take generally?
The hot take, uh, well, the part that I cry about the most is that working as like a developer in Web3 is like not nearly as cool as like working in AI. Like AI like feels like it's cutting edge tech. If you tell people you work in AI, everyone's like, wow, you must be super smart.
Hello.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like everyone in tech respects AI people, but everyone in tech does not respect like crypto developers or engineers at all. Even though we're working on like really cool stuff, like there's math, there's distributed systems, there's compilers, there's like building like
Hello, person.
architectures. Yeah, and we get no respect. And so that's like what I would like to happen is for cryptography, like as engineers or security researchers, I would like that to be like a very cool thing again. Um, I guess that's not really a hot take. That's just kind of a complaint or like a vision I have. My hot take then, I guess, is think of a good one. Uh, there's a lot. I'm trying to be nice to all the teams, but I'll say my hot take is that. Here's a good one. The my hot take is that the scammers and like all the like gamblers and degens are like way, way, way better at marketing than the like normal projects who kind of try and solve actual problems for users. And this should be blamed on the normal projects. So like part of the reason the reputation is so bad is because like these regular people are just like getting on Twitch streams and they're just like talking and like trying to like make money and stuff. And that's like very entertaining and fun. And then you have to come listen to like me talk about like ZK buzzword nonsense. And that's like not nearly as fun. So I blame myself for not making this like world fun and interesting enough. But hopefully someday we can fix that problem and make blockchain and crypto sort of as cool and interesting as it should be.
Well, I do believe you're actually doing your best, though. It's simply that maybe we can kind of spice things up in the way we teach ZK and other things. But I think you are still doing very much well, and it's much on how we educate everyone around to be interested in these things and simply, yeah, just get interested. And hopefully, I think more people should actually be talking about these things on say TikTok and IG because we all spend a lot of time there anyway. And I think by reaching people there, we are actually making things more fun and hopefully many people will kind of come around and that will be very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah. What's the question you've always expected me to ask that I didn't ask throughout the episode? Oh, that thing you simply just want to say.
I think you asked the most important one, which is like if you're listening, I think you should like try and get into ZK as soon as possible. Like I said, I think in like 1 month of studying, you can learn the buzzwords. You'll like start understanding, like the proofs, the verification steps, like all the different little pieces and buzzword, like technical terms. And this will help you in your career like so much. Like even if you're not as technical, like or you're on like this is if you're like a security person, but if you're a marketer, if you're like business development, if you can understand more of like how the tech works, I think you have like a big advantage in your role compared to the other people who don't know this yet. And so, yeah, I'm very convinced of the future. And that was probably the most important thing. You already covered it. Good questions.
All right, thank you. And everyone, I think you heard Porter. So this is your cue to start that ZK research tutorial wanted to start playing around with how to play with Noah, then start playing around with any language you want to play with and simply just get started. Give yourself 1 month to kick off like he mentioned. So yeah. Once again, Porter, I really want to appreciate you for coming on the podcast. I'm very sure everyone else in the community will love this when it's out. And thank you so very much. We appreciate what you're doing in the ecosystem. We appreciate what you're building with ZKSync and making everywhere secure. Thank you so very much. And it's very, very great to have you around.
Thank you so much. And yeah, it's great to spend some time talking with you. Happy to hang out like anytime you want, or if you ever, I hope we can meet up at a conference soon or something.
Yeah, yeah. Hope to really meet soon. Hope to really meet soon.